Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, hanging out with some colleagues here.
Dave.
Nate.
And today we're going to do another segment of our Dungeons & Dragons Monsters. And today we're going to talk about the Thri-Kreen. This guy can be found on 288 of your Monster Manual. So I know this is one of your faves. It's been around for a while. What do you guys think?
Well, the Mantis Warrior originally appeared in Monster Manual 2. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I believe.
I have that book.
So you can confirm whether I'm correct or not. And look, they've gone through a bit of a metamorphosis in their appearance, but I think the Thri-Kreen really came into their own with Dark Sun.
Oh yeah, Thri-Kreen and Athas.
They got a lot more love there. That's where they first appeared as a player race, and they were just pretty sick, and they still are.
Oh yeah.
So
for challenge rating 1 monster, they're definitely a tough fight.
Well, didn't you just tell us that you had a party of four guys or four players?
4 players.
Level
They're 4th
4
level,
and 3 of them kicked their ass.
Yeah, I gave them the variant, the psionic variant, so they had invisibility and blur and
Chakkas and Githkas.
Yeah, so it was in a desert area, so they had advantage on stealthing. So they totally camouflaged themselves, invisible, then just started chucking things at them. And they only saw 1 at first because they're all advantage hidden. So it's like really insane from an ambush predator that doesn't sleep.
I hate to tell you, it wouldn't matter if they were in the mountains or the forest.
Oh,
they just have the chameleon ability. They change color to blend in with their surroundings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they essentially just always have advantage on stealth.
Yeah, it has advantage on dexterity stealth checks made to hide.
They're never sleeping terrible hunters.
Yes.
And in this edition, I really feel like, as I really wanted to say, all right, when am I going to convert this to a play race? And I really feel like
wouldn't it be perfect in like a party of elves?
Yeah,
I think so.
They're too monstrous and too alien. I mean, their way of communication in this edition, they don't use words that much. It's all like, it's alien for them to speak to a non-Kreen in a sense, from what I'm reading out of that.
It's a lot of body language, body gesture,
yeah,
clicking and clacking.
Insectoid stuff,
right?
Which no one else has the components to do that kind of stuff, waving their antennae and clicking their mandibles. So unless you went like this, which is just would be really strange, and they probably think you'd be like, "Are you mocking me? Should I eat you?" Because that's also something they do, is hunt sentient creatures and think it's no big deal to eat them, especially elf. And unless you're of use to them,
it's not their fault elves taste so good.
Yeah, and I know. Unless you're of use to them, they might just eat you if they're hungry.
Well, I'm on the other side. I definitely see. All right, you've got a lot of stigma put onto that. Yes, they eat sentient humanoid races, and
Ted tries to whitewash everything. Like
whatever, Death Knight that doesn't murder things.
Yeah.
Ted,
it eats people.
Me, when I say Thri-Kreen in my head, it's Thri-Kreen of Athas. That's how ingrained Thri-Kreen as a player race is to me, and I can't make these guys a player race. That's from my perspective, all right?
Well, especially when the rest of the party needs to sleep and they don't need to sleep. You need Warforged in the party just to stay up and make sure the Thri-Kreen doesn't eat anybody.
I'm sure I'm feeling hungry.
You guys wake up the next morning, I'm like, wait a minute, where'd that empty bedroll come from? What happened to Bob?
It was a tasty elf in a wrapper. What was I going to do?
The Thri-Kreen's like,
So,
don't look at me, I can't talk.
Now, you can go with the whole, Thri-Kreen of Athas had, yes, their insectoid mind, but you could be part of their clutch. And a lot of other things about them that were really like, oh yeah, they're a player race. And the world, I think, is more designed for that kind of harsh savagery. But in just a general game, I just can't. They were written as a monster. You'd have to have a whole book talking about how they're not a monster that's going to eat people. Me.
The way I look at it is, one, we mentioned in an earlier video, we were playing, in Ryan's Pathfinder game, and we're both playing a Thri-Kreen. And you're taking it from the more civilized side. I'm taking it from more the monstrous side. And it's definitely challenging, both as a player and on my psyche to be like, yes, I just threatened to eat that person. No,
you threatened to eat the baby out of her womb.
Yeah.
While she was still alive.
Yes, I did that as well.
That's super evil.
But my character was evil. I mean, it's
like veal.
You know, I
enjoying some veal.
like it.
You want barbecued baby elf and gift babies, don't you?
It's a mindset thing, and it's again it's challenging on the psyche to play that kind of level of monstrosity without the players just turning on you saying, "All right, I'm just going to kill you," because that just can't be. You know, and you know it is, but you can take the other side of the coin and say, you know what, I've kind of gone past that and fight those animalistic desires.
I'm a vegan.
You know, I mean, you know, you kind of at
I
every
only eat insects.
at every encounter, you know, where food comes into being, like you could role play it as like, all right, I'm looking to see what the other players are doing. I'm trying to see what's socially acceptable and what's not. You know, and you can play from that whole angle and allow that to be a player character. You know, and you can go the route of just the physical advantages that these guys have, and you know, with the player's companion that just came out, you know, that opens up the door to saying, oh well, let's give them their spellcasting stuff through Psionics via the the feat option,
and then they'll finally be able to communicate with the party. They can stop drawing in sand and using twigs, because that's what it actually says.
Now we definitely got away from just the Monster Manual discussion of it.
You know,
part of I feel like the conversation with the Monster Manual discussion is how different they are in this edition. I mean, I'm trying to think of the older editions. I can really like a second edition Dark Sun and Athas was a big impact on what I think of Thri-Kreens, but it's just because this is it for 5th edition. It's like, well, I feel like I can't do it right now.
Here's the thing with that, right? That's where they got spotlighted. Everything else, it was just like a little blurb in the monster manuals for the various editions. You know, the artwork would change, but Athas was the only game where you really delved into what it meant to be a Thri-Kreen and what Thri-Kreen were about.
Yeah.
So here they're painting another picture of the Thri-Kreen, and I suspect if they do a Dark Sun book or campaign setting, it's going to be a different Thri-Kreen.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, you can't have something that looks at the rest of the party as food in the party. You know, it creates a little bit of a problem.
It's definitely a tension factor. But you know, what's to say that your half orc or your full-blooded orc, if you're playing in the earlier editions, that's far more savage. You know, is it any different to say, you know what, I'm just going to kill you versus say I'm just going to eat you? You know, I mean, well, it has the same.
There's a word in the dictionary for that.
Cannibalism,
specifically.
I just.
But I guess since they're insectoids, they don't see it as anything like that, because that'd be like eating a grasshopper or something.
It's not random violence. You're talking about random violence, but when you're talking about killing someone to eat them, that's not random violence. That's a purpose. So you have a purpose to kill them. Where someone like the orc or the savage half orc, it's like, well, they could get violent, but they don't really that's violence for violence sake. Unless they decide
this is like natural propensity. I like to eat these things.
Yeah, you're looking at Bob and you're like, yeah, I bet barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
All right,
that'd be pretty good.
So tangy and sweet, perhaps.
So you're suggesting things for him to eat.
so let's move away from the whole racial side of the spectrum
from the players.
Yeah. Let's look on it from the monster perspective. So what do we do to use these guys as monsters, and how do we use them in new and interesting ways?
Well, okay, so with the Thri-Kreen here, although it says they're kind of like savannas, deserts, and plains, but they could probably fit in anywhere. I mean, they're alpha predators.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you could use them in a jungle, you can use them in a desert, you can use them in a forest. So it's just a matter of where is there enough...
I do not like them green eggs and ham.
I would they'd be green in the jungle. I would say that pretty much anywhere an insect could survive, even though they like the plain savannas and deserts, they could be.
Yeah, so I mean, they're kind of easy to use in new and interesting ways. The only place I don't really see them being is like around a lot of water.
Water, I would say cold as well.
I don't see them in the cold.
Although there is insects in the cold. So
this is true.
So it's but with water, I don't know. I guess maybe now I'm being kind of flavored from previous editions where they would breathe through their thorax. Mm-hmm. So it's, to me, anything that would submerge your body in water would
Yeah,
be a
they've
bad
been
deal.
de-butted in this.
Yeah, before they had the giant anass. so the baby ain't got back no more.
Yeah, so I mean, anything that's chitinous has an issue with. Can it swim? Does it swim?
Right.
Does it have the ability to?
Does it sink? Does
Yeah.
it breathe through its butt?
Yeah. So I mean, in this case, we can go with the regular humanoid breathing through the mouth thing. So I mean, wading through water not a big deal, but I'm not seeing them as real big swimmers.
I think the thing about the Thri-Kreen is they're kind of solitary, like and self-contained. Like I don't see them interacting with other species as much.
Because they'd eat them.
Because they'll eat them. Who's going to trust them? And like as far as domesticating other creatures, it's like, well, if they get hungry, they'll eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So so in that sense, like I don't think you're going to see a lot of pairing up with these guys, and although they do have like a human range of emotions, it says how they're not really prone to them. So even that aspect is really alien. So if they get like giant termites as pets, like they're not really that attached to them probably.
Right. I would see them like maybe if they had a domesticated animal, maybe they would have like giant aphids or something like that, and then they'd make some kind of like. They drink the nectar stuff, like that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, maybe like if it had a use, like honeybees or something.
Yeah, like the equivalent of a cow for them, kind of thing.
Or ants do something? I don't know.
No.
Well, I mean, they gather food.
Well, maybe if they trained them to gather stuff for them. I don't know.
Be interesting. You're seeing a Thri-Kreen riding a giant ant.
Yeah, that could work. I mean, they're pretty. I mean, they're not actually super fast in this edition.
40.
Okay, so they are faster than the average. Man, they don't sleep and they can move 40.
Yeah.
You just ain't getting away from these things.
And then once you start adding those monk and barbarian levels on there,
yeah, danger.
What is their stat array?
They got a 12 strength, 15 dex, 13 con, 8 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 7 charisma.
Yeah,
so mentals are definitely not their strong suit, but they're still wiser, stronger, dexterous, and more fortitude.
I mean, they're only looking at negatives in intelligence and charisma. They actually have a bump to wisdom. Mm-hmm. So overall,
they're predators. So yeah. So you need that
perception.
perception.
Yeah, they've got the perception angle. I mean, they've got the psionic build.
But so now, all right. So now, stepping away from this really primitive, savage Thri-Kreen, if you go with the more advanced Thri-Kreen that has a psionic capabilities, it's got better armaments, better weapons. Mm-hmm. It's far more of a threat to a player character, and you could probably bump that CR1 up to a CR2, for those abilities alone.
Right.
And now they can have a society that is more than like the pack mentality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is kind of like a few variants. They've got the weapon variant, and then they say, a few Thri-Kreens also have these psionic powers. Right. So, I mean, if you go with the full variant, they've got the weapons and the psionics, but you don't have to necessarily go with.
Well, you used the full variant when you used them, right?
Oh yeah,
and they mopped the floor with them.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, and they got a decent armor class. 15 in this edition is nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not so they've got a decent to hit, and then with those special abilities, I mean, there's a good possibility that they're rolling advantage, or you're rolling disadvantage to hit them because they got blur on.
Blur or invisibility.
I don't actually know what blur does, but I'm going to guess it gives disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got so many ways to give you disadvantage to attack them.
And getting them advantage by being hidden.
Invisibility, blur, or just straight up hidden with stealth.
Yes.
It's like, I get a, +4 on my stealth check, and I get to roll with advantage.
These guys would make disgusting psionic thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Or rogues in this edition.
Right.
So the lone Thri-Kreen with a couple, class levels would probably be pretty disgusting as well.
Yep.
You could slap some monk on there.
Use some Kai points come in and just knock them all around the battlefield. Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? Wait, what is that?
Well, they got claws. They're not going to punch people, right? They'd be like totally slash people's throats out.
They use their weapon thingy, man.
Oh yeah, I'm sure those would be monk weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a monk weapon to me.
Yeah.
Too bad you can't really use your martial arts with thrown weapons, but my one great disappointment.
Where does it say that exactly?
Under martial arts and the monk.
It says melee.
It really calls out specifically melee, because I was like, you could be the ultimate, ultimate shuriken monk, but
ranged monk.
but they're not feeling it.
So, all right. So, how can we use these guys, in new and interesting ways? Clearly, you could say that, as you did in your game, you had them attack from invisible, stealth and blurred. And
yeah, they were on the hunt.
They were mowing this party down. But how can you use this, in a different way than just
bump that intelligence a little bit, make it an advanced civilization for them, where they actually settle, where there's actually community. Maybe they're raising food as opposed to hunting food as much.
Maybe make them a little more domesticated themselves.
Yeah. They have culture, they have civilization, and maybe you have to get something that's in their city, which could be through diplomacy or stealth. So, fortunately, they're not really super good at. They're not as good at detecting as they are at stealthing. Thank God. So you could technically run a stealth mission to get into their place and to their city and take what you need and leave. I could definitely see also doing like I'm kind of envisioning like almost like an Aztec temple in the jungle. With these guys, and maybe. Like in that circumstance, maybe they're the indigenous people, the tribes. Maybe they offer sacrifices of X amount. Like there's a lot
sacrifices and feasts, perhaps,
in order to not have them come and hunt them.
When I first started looking at this, and it's like, all right, how can we use these in new and interesting ways? While I like your idea, what if you had like a higher level party that had to deal with like a massive infestation? And there was literally like the town or the city is fearing
like Locust.
Yeah, obviously not.
I'm thinking dual wielding raid. Bam.
So I just that's a big concept,
and that would either be a raid or it would be the Thri-Kreen getting pushed out by something else. Either their homelands being destroyed, and they're just like, well, we're hungry. Your food, kind of thing.
And you could even, have it, you could lower the mentals even further if you really wanted to denote,
make them more animalistic.
Yeah, so that they weren't using, tactics or any of that kind of stuff. That it was honestly just a push, and maybe there's a couple that are more intelligent driving them. Such a
you zerging them up. Four-armed insectoid menace.
So, I mean, that's just a couple different takes. Can you think of anything?
I think if they got kicked out of their homeland due to either some kind of evil or something arising out of the desert.
Like the Tarrasque.
Like a Tarrasque. Like some kind of legendary monster might be something that, further down the line you've got to deal with that. But right now you're dealing with these apex predators getting pushed out of their natural environment.
I like it. I mean, I like the idea that this is the precursor, like, because really, like, you would want to, hopefully your players are going to be thoughtful enough to go, well, this thing just happened, and, like, this has never happened before. Yeah. Why are there wave after wave of Thri-Kreen just trying to get over, pushing themselves over a wall? What's going on the other side?
Yeah, it's like totally a rules for writers kind of thing. Like, why is this happening now instead of 10 years ago or 100 years ago or 10 years from now? So there's got to be something pushing them out of their habitat or some kind of initiative. Maybe there is a ruler that's psionically linking them together in such a way that they're like, hey, you're like a cult following almost. Like a new leader rises up, has special powers beyond like the normal savage Thri-Kreen, and is leading them towards some kind of conflict with things. Or
if you want to go a little Lovecraftian on it, what if there's a actual, like, say there's like a chamber from somewhere else that gets opened, and and they're all like in stasis or something, and they get awakened. If you want to go like from a kind of a beyond the stars kind of route. And then and all of a sudden, there were no Thri-Kreen in your world, but now somebody pops this thing,
and this gateway is.
No, it's not. I'm not thinking like a gateway. I'm thinking almost like a huge giant incubation chamber,
so like
kind of deal where
maybe their wizard experiment from like 1,000 years ago, and he never pushed the button, kind of thing.
And someone pushes the button, and all of a sudden they come out. They're hungry. They want to eat. and even if you drive them back or defeat them, you're probably not going to kill them all. So now they're kind of like dispersed throughout your world. I think that would be kind of a cool way to introduce them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, if they're not if they weren't like a natural predator before, dealing with the fallout of that.
Well,
happening.
if you read like the Call of Cthulhu books and any of the Lovecraft stuff, sometimes it is like really alien insectoid type monsters.
It's not just all tentacles and giant gods.
No, not always. So you literally you could turn it into like a horror thing.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely a horror creature.
Yeah.
And maybe after the initial push and the invasion thing, like they discover this chamber, but in the chamber there's some kind of like beacon that's been set off, and like, oh my god, like these are like the forerunners. What's coming next? Yeah, especially if you want to get crazy, mix a little sci-fi.
Yeah, I think
in
that's
with
a good
it,
mix.
or sci-fi horror. I'm thinking.
I like that. If I didn't already have them in what I wanted to do with it, I would absolutely do that.
So there you go.
So there, Thri-Kreen, that's some ways you guys can use them, throw them in your game. If you have suggestions or ideas how you feel like they should be used, drop them in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, subscribe.
You can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
You can also join us and check out our Patreon account and help us continue to make great content that you are enjoying right now.
So until next time, stay nerdy.